microservices. We did discuss about the microservices 2 weeks back, I think, in a session that I did. So in that, I think we discussed about the way that the microservices came in and the complexities the microservices is having. And also we learned about seven actually, seven microservice design patterns as well. So out of that, there are two design patterns that I'm going to recall today because it's going to be important in our topic that we are going to discuss today. It's about orchestrating microservices using Aspire and Dapper. Okay, this is not that Dapper that we use for the databases. This is a complete different story. So I'll elaborate about it going forward. So this will explore about the Aspire and the Dapper, and it will simplify. I mean, which will simplify the microservice orchestration. The word orchestration. I mean, we've been talking about this for weeks now. I mean, I told about orchestration when I explained about the Saga pattern in microservices, and I think last week Pawan explained about the uh, when he was saying about the multi-agent orchestration. So the orchestration is widely used word in the technology world these days. So orchestration tools that we could use for the microservices and a runtime are the things that we could look into using the Aspire and so building our own previous discussion with the sidecar pattern and the orchestration pattern. I'm going to start the discussion. So let's move on to the next slide. Okay, right. Let me just start with the sidecar. So if I recap the sidecar pattern, so the sidecar is basically, I mean, is there anyone who can answer the question, why what is a sidecar? Just forget about the technology term. I mean, what is a sidecar in general? So yeah, if you have just I mean, what comes into my mind is like years back, there was a Hindi movie called Sholay, one of the famous movies. So in that, there's a famous song where a bike ride with the sidecar next to it. So that's what you call the sidecar. I hope all of you have that image in your mind, like the sidecar thing. A sidecar is something that you can attach to your bike and just have it on your side, which helps to put another person and get him a ride with your bike. So this is simply a thing like that. Like what sidecar does is, as I explained on the other day as well, like we could just have the logical stuffs inside our container and separate the sidecar things into a different container, right? So when you talk about the containers like services, microservices, we will talk about the containers, and then we can just have these containers separated out, like the main logic. Let's say you're building an order processing one, so the order processing logic will be on your application, but the logging, the telemetry, the event passing, and maybe some other processes like which are helpful for your resiliences. You can use inside this sidecar container, which will used as a help to your main service. So it's paired with a primary application container, share its lifestyle. So it's like logging, monitoring, security, and decoupling, many more. A login sidecar collect. I mean, a logging side having its code is an example that you can get. Okay, if we move on to the next one. The next one is the orchestration pattern, as I explained earlier as well. Orchestration. So one of the famous ways that we can tools that we are using these days is the Kubernetes for the orchestration. So it has a different method. I mean, Google came up with this approach. I mean, they are the one who invented about the Kubernetes, as they had very large amount of microservices to manage in their inside. So they came with a concept called pods. So likewise, I mean, so you can just have a separate for that pod. You can just give an uh, we call can have a separate capacity and a RAM allocated for it, and it will manage separately. So likewise, I mean, you can just manage each pod different in a different way where you can just orchestrate the whole flow. So the benefit is you will get the centralized control on all the services that you have. You can manage them separately, and you can see the interaction between them, and you can just monitor the calls going in between them, and you can manage the workflows like you can define the process I mean you can just separate it down to multiple services, and so you can see those transactions going on. And the benefits is it simplifies the complex transaction into smaller pieces. So you can just see the each transaction, and if there's something wrong, you can just easily have that resilience into it and sort those things out quickly and maybe scale them out. So likewise, there are many benefits that you can get from the orchestration pattern as well. Coming, I mean, yeah. So introducing the Dapper distributed application runtime. So that's what the Dapper means actually. So Dapper is a portable and event-driven runtime that makes it easy, as I explained earlier. Like it comes with it helps to your main container and make it easy for the developers to build the resilient, stateless, and stateful microservices that run on cloud edge. So and mainly, I mean, simplify the common microservices, and you don't have to worry about the logging and etc. The NFR, so non-functional stuff that you have to think about. You can mainly focus on your application logic, and yeah. So this is how it works. Like you could just, I mean, you can have a Dapper sidecar along with your application container, and you could call it via an API and also with the gRPC. So the most probably, I mean, with Dapper, I mean, this internal communication, it manages it from its own. So you just have to bind it to your application by registering. So we'll explain about it further going forward. So yeah, Dapper, it's like building co-building blocks like uh, we can use for service invocations. I will explain to you about the service invocation. Like if I give you an example, like let's say if on your front end, if you want to call a backend, you're not going to specify the URL or anything, but instead you can use this service invocation, just the name, and you can just the name you said name reference and use it on your own project. And pub sub mapping mechanism. So when you're using the Dapper especially, you don't have to worry about the underneath technology that you're using, whether it's Kafka or RabbitMQ or Service Bus or Event Hub. Or you don't have to worry about that. You can simply build it on your Dapper runtime, and later on you can decide whether you're in which infrastructure that you're going to use. And you can have the state management as well. So you can use many services for like even a persistent database to manage this state management as well using Dapper. And even for the secret management, yeah, you can have secret management tools. It has inbuilt secret management tools like Dapper and the sidecar pattern. Dapper leverages the sidecar pattern by running alongside with your application, and you can focus on your application. As I mentioned earlier, Dapper sidecar will handle the distribution systems concerns and everything, and the API application communications with Dapper could happen via standard APIs. So these are some of the services it's provided: state stores, pub sub mappition. As I mentioned, I mean, these are the services you can use AWS, Azure Service Bus, GCP, or like many services that you could implement using Dapper when it comes to supporting like binding and triggering, S3 bucket triggering, storage triggers, GCP storage triggers. So secret stores, you can use the AWS Secret Manager, Azure Key Wallet. So observability like Prometheus, Application Insight with Azure. I'm not sure about Zipkin, and there's many more. So For the configurations, for the caching, you can use Redis, distributed logs again. You can manage this to cache system like Redis. So there are many more services that you could use using the Dapper service. All right. Uh, then we come to the .NET Aspire. So .NET Aspire is a runtime, I would say, a runtime orchestration support that we get on .NET. So in 2023, .NET came up with .NET 8, the latest long-term support one that we have. I mean, even though we have the .NET 9, I mean, until we get .NET 10 in this year, later in November, I think .NET 8 is the stable long-term support version that we have. So in that, that's where the .NET Aspire first was introduced into the market, and they do have a roadmap as well. We will discuss about going forward. Aspire, the problem they have is like they have built it specifically for the .NET and to provide the orchestration and in the deployment, and it just focuses on developer experience and how they could troubleshoot when they're dealing with distributed systems. So uh, I would first like to go create a sample application. Like, I mean, if you want to learn about the Aspire, uh, we just yeah. So now this is a very simple application that you have. So if you want to just create this application, you can just go to File, New, and create a new project. And in here, you can find the .NET Aspire Start app. So if you just click on this, right, and if you click on Next, you'll be able to create a Aspire project here. So in here, I'm going to create an Aspire project. Probably select a different uh, folder in here. Tests, and then so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a Aspire project created, but I'm also going to use the Redis for this because I want to cache some of the front graph that I'm going to use in uh, in here. So there, I mean, in the sample application, it comes with the Blazor application, a sample page actually. So I'm going to use that Blazor page, and I'm just going to see how it helps for the orchestration. So yeah, the latest it worked with the .NET. I'm just going to use the .NET Aspire version as 9.0, and I'm just going to create this project. So as you can see, it will just create that same project that we had previously, and we have 4 projects in here. So uh, let's just go through one by one. So the main one is the application host. So if you go inside the program CS in here, you can see the builder application is there, and we actually asked it to add the Redis side. So what it does is it specifically says the cache, adds the Redis cache into your application. And also now we have another application in here for the front application, which is as web app, which we are using. We have a web root in here and the component. So basically, we'll be using the Razer one. So it's Blazor pages that we got. So so that will be hosted under here. And what we are saying is like we are going to we expose it with external HTTP endpoints. Of course, when you're deploying this to like Azure, even this will be helpful for you. You can just keep your firewalls restricted, in that public access only for the front end. And we'll have the reference of the cache. Of course, the front end is going to use the cache. So it will wait for the cache. So you have those wait for method, and you have the reference for the backend API service. And you'll wait for the API service to load as well before initializing these projects. So you need the cache, the container to run. So underneath, I mean, what runs underneath here when you're running this in local is definitely the Docker. So you definitely need the Docker desktop machine to this run. So you have all those references in here, like as we had the Redis and the API service, and yeah, that's how the API will get created. So it will run the web front end, but it will wait for all these services to get created. So that's how the dependencies has been declared. And then we have another important project which does get added into a project when you're adding Aspire, which is actually the extensions. So extensions actually now we are talking about orchestration. So when you're talking about the orchestration, so we have these service defaults, right? Like that, like when we talk about the orchestration, there are many things that you could include, right? Not only service defaults, like you'll have probably, if I just cap all these ones, so you can have the service defaults, telemetry. So the open telemetry actually came with .NET 3.0, .NET Core 3.0. So they have enhanced this to work with Aspire now. So it just help us to have those, like with the telemetry, to have handle the message passing, sorry, not the message passing, like the loggings, and also to add to see all the metrics and etc. So all those can be like configured inside this open telemetry thing. I mean, service default, just adding the services like default health checks. You're configuring the telemetry method in here, like service discovery. Service discovery is one of the important thing that I want to specify in here. So you see that when you specify your API service with a name, it identifies your API service, right? So these are the service. This, I mean, how it helps you to discover these services are actually using this service discovery. So it's one of the key features that the Aspire is having, and you can have this. I mean, standard resilient handlers like if could be retry mechanism and etc. for that you can use for resiliences. So those standard resilience handlers, like what you're usually using when you're using like circuit breaker patterns, you'll use in here. Yeah, the service discovery, as I explained earlier, and telemetry. Of course, if you go inside this, I mean, they are written in a way that you could customize it. So you can just enable for it for gRPC as well, and you can add gRPC client instrumentation if you want to like have the tracing enabled for your telemetry. So there are many more features it does provide with Aspire. And default health checks, and you can just enhance your mapping endpoints as well, default endpoints as well. So you can just configure them in here. So that's what for the configuration level changes of your Aspire project. The service default you can use as a uh, extension method that you could extend your services and get those supported into your system. And then we have the API services where we have the API Mac. I mean, I've just used, I mean, we don't have any control or anything. I mean, I'm just using the minimal API method. So we have a weather forecast one which comes in default in here. So if you try to run this application, we'll see that orchestration by just running this application, right? It has some like if you can just go through this, like it's just an API just comes with some default calculation. So let's just Aspire to get started. All right, here we go. Now you can see, I mean, as I said, you have the cache. It probably might be using Redis in here. It's in use, so it's using Redis, and you have the app service container and web front end as well in here. So if I just think I don't have access. Yeah, you can see all these container images and extract all these details in here. If you want to see any console logs, you can go into that and you can have a log on console log on. You can just see on that. So for a developer to troubleshoot, you have everything that you need in here. And if I just go back to the console, you can just open this. Should be able to open this local hosts. I haven't got any like, Swagger support in here, so it might just be the API that you're calling. But if you click something like the front end, you'll be able to see this Aspire page, and it will function. If I go here, I can see the added data in here. And now if I go to these consoles, you can see this uh, content root website by service has been called. Yeah. So, I mean, I think the API service has been called only once, and it's managing the Redis cache for the rest of the ones. So that's why it gives us a results. And if we go to the structured logs, you can see the structured logs in here. So yeah, so you can see the get methods getting called, weather forecast, and I click on those buttons. You can just monitor on all these things in your application and you're developing. So it's just very easy, like to have those. Like you don't need. I mean, it's you don't need to have just a Blazor application. It could be any application that you have. You can just easily configure using Aspire. Just have to use in the Visual Studio. You just have to right click on your project and add the default Aspire projects into it and do the basic configurations on that. So yeah, these are the calls that you have. So if you can, the durations and the actions it has taken, you can taste it. You can have a look on those calls as well. So this is all. So if I go to the API service, you can see the API service calls. It's application started, content root part. So I just see the front end. Show all the logs in here as well. And probably the metrics as well. So if you want to go for an app service, you could just, I mean, these are the default metrics which comes with the open telemetry, but you could just configure it to have all this uh, whatever the whatever the metrics is that you want, counts and etc. So request counts and etc. So you could just monitor it in one dashboard. So that's all about Aspire. Going back to the presentation. So Aspire, so it does. It has many features, like it has for the component discovery. You can add the configuration. So the configure, like I said, I mean, you don't have to manage any like URLs or anything like the Redis cache or anything. So all the keys and everything could be managed. I mean, the key wallet support is also there with Aspire. So the deployments. So you might be thinking, like, if you have this Aspire running on your local, how can you deploy this to something like a cloud native app? So cloud native readiness is there with the Aspire. So if you just log in into your Azure, I mean, basic Azure login, and if you just create a resource group, you just have to like two commands to get it into the Azure. Like, I mean, you can just create a resource group, and then you can review your application components, and then just one command, Azure deploy, and it will just deploy all your components in here into your resource group. But the problem you will face is Aspire is not that good enough to identify, like let's say if you're creating a database, you can simply create it on your host, right? I mean, in here you do have support to build a dot add. I mean, you might have to use some NuGet packages into it. Let's say if you want to add a Postgres database, you can definitely add it by, I mean, just adding that Postgres Aspire NuGet package and then adding that database into here. But when you deploy it, but what it will create in here even is it just a container. So when you deploy it, it will just deploy the container. It won't just go and deploy the uh, exact it won't just create the exact it just created in the instance in the exact Postgres server. So that's an enhancement that the Aspire will probably come up with in future, I guess. And so the observability, as you see, I mean, login metrics, tracing and monitoring and everything is in there. So Aspire plus Dapper. So we didn't talk about Dapper much, but before we talk about Dapper, I would like to go through the Aspire's roadmap as well. It's in here. So there are many more things that they have added in this roadmap. Probably one thing that comes that uh, I want to highlight uh, is the polyglot support. So yeah, so this is what it lacks. So since we don't have this polyglot support, I think most only it's good to use Dapper these days with the Aspire, because Dapper does have that polyglot support. So if I just go back to here, yeah. So that Dapper, which I explained earlier, it does have the polyglot that we look like. The Aspire does support only for the Azure services only, like the container app, especially container orchestration and etc. But still, it's inventing and it's keep growing to support the other services as well. Now let's go on to check how we can have Dapper with Aspire, right? So this is an sample project that I have created. So in here, what I have done is like this is probably following this is kind of a microservice architecture in a very simple way. So in here, I have a order API and also I have a in here I have the order API and also I have a checkout API. So what I did was like I create a Aspire project, and then in that Aspire project, I added two projects into that. One is the order API. So that gets specified in my application host, which is the order API, and the other one is the checkout API. And what you're going to do here is like we're going to see the intercommunication, how those APIs are going to intercommunicate between them when we are running these microservices. So inside my checkout API, one thing that I want to specify in here is like you can just give an ID to this. I mean, with Dapper Sidecar, you can just mention it on attribute as well, but in default, it just support for the ID. So I'm just giving an ID in here. So these are the names that I have just put on to my uh, order project and checkout project, and this is the short ID that helps me to identify uh, the project. I mean, there are some like uh, spelling mistake. I mean, it's not this Dapper. This is probably the database Dapper, but we would rather use the Dapper distribution application runtime keyword. So yeah, I have two application hosted in here, and I have the two applications in here, the checkout one. And if I go inside the checkout one in the programs, yes, I've again used the minimal API, and I'm going to invoke, use the Dapper class. I have just got a NuGet used in here, and also called Dapper client. So which is going to help for me. I'm going to use the Swagger as well in here to show that interaction in between the APIs. And also I'm going to I'm in here. I'm going to invoke the method, which is the ID is the order API. So I'm going to call the order API, and under that I have the process order method. So let's look into that. So results will have a message confirmation in here. So if I go inside the order API and sorry. So set the order API. So in here you can see the process order method API is there. So the process order API route is the method that I'm going to the route that I'm going to call in here. So that which I've specified inside my checkout. Again, I mean, we do have the service depots as you can see. I mean, you have all those extensions again in here, but we are not going to use them. So what we have only used in here is the Dapper client. But in order to work, in order to make the Dapper client work, you need to do two things. You need to have a Dapper installed in your uh, in your sorry in your machine. So you can just simply install your Dapper using the Dapper installer. And if you go to the Dapper documentation. So you can just see the all the community and everything in there. So you can, if you want to download the latest versions in here, you can just download from here, develop application. So this is the SDKs that you can download for the local development. You can get the ID support from here. Yeah, so just use the Apple's SDK that you might have to install this. And then for the local development, you have several steps that you need to follow. So just follow them. So you definitely need to have the Docker running on your machine as well. And then once you install all these things, you'll probably will be able to see your like if you open the command prompt, you'll be able to see your Dapper version running on your machine. Yes, you can see I have the 1.5.15.2. So you just have to install the console, and I think there's another command called Dapper init. So you have to have those Dapper hosts running in your machine in order to make this runtime work. And so as we got to know, I mean, it's a sidecar that helps for us. So when it comes to when we run this application, right, using the host, let's see what will happen. So what it should do is it should create 4 services for me. Like I have 2 front end, so 2 backend services. One is for the order, one is for the checkout, and I also have 2 Dapper components, which actually help for the non-functional stuff that I want in my application, like for the resilience and etc. that we want to highlight. So if I just create, I mean, it's again runs on the Aspire. So I'm just using the Aspire to run this Dapper as well. So and then I'm just going to create an API checkout, call the checkout API. So it should then call into the process API. Yeah, the order 0 did process. So if I just go here again into here, so I should be able to go to the console. And if I just click on ecom order, I should be able to see the process order in here. So you get all this, the Dapper traces as well. So if I go to the check file, I can see the checkout has been started and the call has been there, and structured log. So if I go inside the Dapper, sorry, I'm just getting the Dapper CLIs in here. Structured roles. Something I might need to have a look. Right. So these are the traces, like how it get calls. So there are many more things that you could just have look in here, and you just click on the matrices. You should be able to see the matrices as well, but I think it's just getting solved the Dapper. So there might be some configuration I might need to add to get this API accessible. But in terms of why we are using Dapper with the Aspire is actually the Dapper, as I mentioned earlier, is a polyglot, so it does not depend on the language. So it does support for all the like many languages actually, Java, Python, Go, and many more languages. And it has, I mean, as I showed to you earlier, like it does support for many services as well. So using Dapper, you can just have databases and many more things integrated with Aspire. So that is one advantage that you could use, and to make the life easy of managing the distributed applications. Uh, just one more thing, like if you just go back into the roadmap. So now in 2025 to 2026, now so what Aspire is looking forward to develop now, they have just started, like it's like 2 years now, so they have done quite a bit of things in these 2 years to make life easy of developers. Of course, another problem that could arise is how could you deploy this to a production. So currently what most of the community people suggest is it's still good to go with the Kubernetes when you're using the orchestration in a production environment, and you can still use the Aspire for your runtime in your local development, and still bypass it by using those setting files, application settings files, by having the actual. I mean, you can just use a Terraform or any other tool to deploy the components into your production environments or UAT environments, and then manage their settings in a separate. But still, to make the life easy of the developers, you can use the Aspire in your local development. Of course, the plan is to make it more easy and make the deployment easy as well in the near future. So that's what the flexible dev workflow, run subsets of the apps, executed command for the container. So .NET projects inside debug .NET projects inside containers, multi-repo support. I mean, these are the probably things that they're going to introduce in near future, and they'll going to add more testing experience as well. So dashboard support, they'll include more things in near future. Storage support. I mean, it's when I say near future, it might come. A lot of these features could come with .NET 10, which is going to release on this November. Custom layouts and grouping, and improved search and filtering, and there are AI specific enhancements as well. So of course the polyglot support, they're going to come up. I mean, that's I mean the use of Dapper comes with the polyglot support, right? So we can get rid of it as they are going to support for C Sharp, Python, and JavaScript in near future. So cross language APOS support and AI workflows, probably Azure AI Foundry agent support as well, Open AI integrations, and Aspire MCP server option runtime endpoint exposing app models for agents and tools. So they have this MCP server as well. So there's a lot more things to come, and they're still in the early stage, and still it a good use for the developers. And yeah, that's probably about Aspire, Dapper. So key takeaways and next steps. So Aspire, it simplifies local development and development deployment of distributed apps. And you could, if it's a simple app player, you can just even dev test it using for deploying it for Azure or any other kind of cloud environment as well. And Dapper, it's provide more portable building blocks and help to the resilience, again the observabilities and many more things in microservices synergy together. I mean, they streamline microservice orchestration. So that's where the microservice, I mean, we could use them to gain more and more things tested in microservices and make things simplify, the complex things simplify in our development process and to production. So that's basically all about orchestration using Aspire and Dapper. Open for the questions. Any questions, guys?